See here, make sure we're live everywhere. Got my comments pulled up. Just give it a quick moment here. Now, do we want to go anywhere else other than here?
No, we should be good. I mean, I think you're showing one slide. I think you got one slide showing up front.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, welcome to Talking Commercial with Lawrence and Dusty. Today is March 30th, 2023. We're going to talk a bit about multifamily and a bit about some mobile home parks. Let's move over here. It's not updating for me here. Come on. Oh, here we go. Sorry, my first time using those banners there. Hey, Lawrence, how you doing?
Good day, Dusty. How are you doing, man?
Very good.
So you got your cup of Joe.
Might have a couple deals in the works. We're going to look at one today, I think.
All right, let's get into it. So today, this is everything talking commercial. So today we're going to discuss mobile home parks. We're going to talk commercial real estate, multifamily. We're going to have a guest on today. So let's get straight into it right now. Dusty, tell me what is the difference between mobile home parks, multifamily? How do you calculate those two, individually?
Yeah. So in commercial real estate, we're looking at an investment, right? So I'm investing in a property. Either you're an owner user, which is different than this, or you have an investment property, and we're looking at getting a return on our investment, to be basic, right? And depending on the quality and stability of that income stream is going to determine how much I'm willing to pay for the same net income, right? And so what we're doing is we're taking a property that has a certain income stream, and it's going to have some expenses attached depending on the product type. Okay, so multifamily is a little different than mobile home parks. And we're going to distill it down to what is the net or take-home income that you then get taxed on. And that's what our net income is. And depending on how stable and secure that income stream is, I'm going to pay more or less, or have a better or worse return expected for the same income stream with those. So when we're dealing with mobile home parks or multifamily, I've got a couple slides here if we want to take a quick look.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look underneath the hood.
Yeah, let's see here. So let's talk real quick about mobile home parks. So let's kick back to the first couple slides here. So multifamily and mobile home parks operate somewhat similar. One of the things we're going to look at is the income, and then we're going to pull out all of the expenses so that we can arrive at what's the net income. And then what we'll do is we'll apply a return to that. We'll say, I want a cap rate. And a cap rate is really, if I were to pay cash for a property, what is the annual rate of return I would receive for that cash?
Right.
Okay? That's what a cap rate is. Okay. And so we're going to apply a cap rate to these things. You see here, GSR is gross scheduled income. That is all of the income that I can receive on a property if every unit's full the whole time. Right.
That's the gross, not the net. So in total, we're going to add those things up.
In total, if I get the rent that I want and everyone pays and no one goes vacant, that's what I can expect, gross scheduled income. Okay. So if you are in most people,
sorry about that.
No, I like this. So so we can pop these questions up here. Most people don't understand gross and net cap rates. So you're going to apply a cap rate to, or a capitalization rate to the return that you're getting based on the net income. Okay, not on the gross income. So your income for the gross rent would be something that you apply a gross rent multiplier to.
Okay.
Right. So a gross rent multiplier is usually used in multifamily most often. And it's used when a lot of times someone who knows what they can expect to get for their expenses. Okay. So I know exactly what I can get for expenses in this market. I don't care what your expenses are. So all I want to know is what your rent is compared
Right.
to the lease. And a gross rent multiplier is just how many times does the rent go into the gross scheduled rent go into the purchase price. So you might see something like a 10.5 gross rent multiplier or a 12 or 15.6 gross rent multiplier. That means the rent is 15 times, or the purchase price is 15 times the rent annually,
Gotcha.
right? And so just someone who knows very well what their expenses can be, they can drill that down so they don't care necessarily about the cap rate. They care more about the gross rent multiplier, which is basically, it's just the rent, just the gross rent. Right.
Okay.
So you're now with your scheduled rent. So gross scheduled rent is one thing. What you actually collect is different. Right. So if
Right.
everything's full,
That's the net, right?
well, what you collect would be different. So we go to that second line here where it says vacancy and credit loss.
Credit loss. Yep.
Okay. So maybe the unit is full still, it's not vacant, but they're not paying you. You haven't collected all of the rent. Okay. So that's another line item that you'll often see is there's the scheduled rent. Here's what we didn't collect that we should have if everything was full. Okay. That could be vacancy. That could be credit loss. It could be somebody that's not paying. And then below that, we're going to have our, what our collected rent was. And we're going to remove then after that, our operational expenses. So here's my scheduled rent. Here's how much I didn't collect. Here's what all the expenses were, the operational expenses. And then that would be my net income after that.
Okay. So the operational expenses, basically property manager, any utilities, all that stuff, is that included in operational expenses or no?
Yeah. So your operational expenses would be what you typically expend, utilities. I use the term TIMR, taxes, insurance, management, maintenance, utilities, and repairs.
TIMR.
So it makes it easy to kind of remember. Those are going to be your main expenses for the most part. And these are your operational expenses. These are not what you would not include in this list here, what's called CapEx or capital expenses.
Right.
And this would be like if I replace a roof. Okay. I don't
Anything-
do
anything of most like high cost value roof.
anything that you're not going to do every year, right?
Right.
So I don't replace a roof every year. I don't replace a bunch of HVACs every year. I may have a budget for that, a CapEx budget that I set maybe like 3 or 5%, depending on the age of the building. So I'm going to put aside that amount. But when I'm looking at selling it for those purposes, it doesn't really matter.
Got it.
Because that's not a specific operational cost, right? That's something I do every now and then.
Right. So that's something like in residential, I know I've always kept capital expenditure like a certain percentage, like 5% to the side every month. But when I go to sell it, that stuff, I mean, it matters to the buyer. So to know that, hey, these things were updated up front. Typically, in my situation, they update up front, so I don't have to worry about it in the future. Commercial, you're kind of not doing those things until they fall apart, but you're setting aside that percentage for when that stuff does fall
Yeah,
apart.
well, it's interesting because you'll set those aside. You'll have a budget set aside expecting to do the roof in a certain amount of time. You'll do what's called a PCA or property condition assessment.
Yep.
And what that'll do, that'll actually help you set up a schedule of when to expect to have to replace the roof or when you might have to figure out something with the parking lot and seal and stripe it. And so that'll help you schedule that out and decide how much of a budget you probably need for CapEx. But we do usually want to perform some of these things when we're looking at selling. So we're going to start to look at things so there's no deferred maintenance and other stuff. You might not want to do all of it. You want to leave some meat on the bone there for the future owner. But there may be some. That's what we do, a buy-sell analysis.
Okay.
And decide what do we want to do? What do we want to leave for the next person to buy the property on those things?
Got it.
So basically, we're going to pull all this down with gross income, credit and vacancy loss. We got our expenses out. Now we've got our net income, and then we apply a cap rate. So we apply a percentage. What return should I expect on $100,000 in net income? Right. Depends on how stable the property is and how secure the income is. With multifamily, this would be where is it located? How old is it? What deferred maintenance is there, right? So this would be a consideration if we're looking to sell. Do we want to replace a roof or two or HVAC units? What's the cost of that? And what would be the return or expected return on my purchase price if I do update all these things? Okay, so that's what we're going to start looking at if we do those things.
So you're trying to determine if you should fix those things before you go to sell, or just sell it as is.
Right.
Kind of something. Okay, got it.
All right. So now we probably want to talk about the difference between mobile home parks and apartments. So on a mobile home park, you're not necessarily going to own the unit itself. You're going to own a slab of concrete, and the tenant will own the unit. Okay, so the tenant will then pay you a rent for the concrete, right? So what you'll look at is what when you're looking at mobile home parks, you say, how many units are park owned, how many are tenant owned? That's a very important question. Okay, because that's going to change what you're willing to pay for it. Not necessarily the cap rate, but it's also going to really factor into how much per unit am I willing to pay for these little mobile homes. Okay, so you'll instead of just applying a straight cap rate to it, you'll take that cap rate. If you were just to have tenant-owned homes, sorry, I'm trying to think of a best way to describe this, because you're going to have to separate things out on mobile home parks. Maybe we can look at the mobile home example that we have here in a moment.
Okay.
But another thing is, Timmer, what is the expenses, the annual expenses, and then water and sewer are very important. Is it hooked up to city and water and sewer? Do they have septic tanks? Is there, what is that situation? Because a lot of times it's not going to be hooked up to city water and sewer.
Well, that's what I would think. It would be more septic tanks, because most of these mobile home parks that I see are like kind of out in the middle of nowhere, kind of. Yeah. Right. So is that typical to have it hooked up to septic opposed to city?
It's one of the first questions you get with mobile home parks is, how is the water and sewer situated? And it's obviously much better to be hooked up to city.
Right. And then what about
electric? Other times it's not.
How about electric?
Electric's usually metered out to each unit.
Oh, to each unit. That's
usually not a problem.
Okay.
But yeah, we want to know how many park owned homes are there and what's the situation with the water and sewer, because that's going to help determine also your CapEx budget, right? So if it is on septic, you have a bunch of septic tanks all over the place. How old are those? What is my responsibility with regard to those, and how much are those going to cost me in the future here?
Got it.
Yeah. Let me see here. So apartments. Okay. So that. Trying to remember so park owned, so POH is park owned homes. So when you're valuing a mobile home park, those are going to be valued less than like if you just had a straight multifamily unit, right? So maybe your multifamily units generally float around 1 to 120 a unit.
Okay.
Just to use an example. If you had a mobile home park that were all park owned homes, you could treat it like a multifamily complex, right? Mm-hmm. But because they're mobile homes, people that buy those are not going to consider those the same. They're going to reduce that value. So what you'll do is you'll start to look at two things. You're going to look at the income as though they were just renting the spaces.
Okay.
Because you're going to have a rent. If you own the rental, they might rent it for $1,100, but the space rent, the market rent for that concrete pad, might be $350 or $400, right? Mm-hmm. So when people go and look at mobile home parks, they're looking at the pad rent or what that market rent would be, not what you're actually getting. So you've got a delta of like $600, $700 sometimes, and they're not going to attribute a value to that. To a large degree. I disagree. I think there is a value to that, but a lot of times
I was going to say they're going to consider, like, they're not going to look at the value of that park owned mobile home.
Yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to assign a value to the actual home itself. So it's going to say mobile homes are going for of this size and of this age. They're going for 15,000 a piece.
Okay.
So I'm going to value the pad rent of what that would be,
Plus, okay.
and I'm going to derive a cap rate out of that. And then I'm going to take all of your park owned homes and I'm going to, multiply that by 15,000. And that'll be my second value. And we're going to stack those two together. And that's what I'm going to offer you. But the income stream spending off of that, maybe that's 60, 70, $80,000 between what the pad rent would be and what the rent actually is. There is a value to that in my mind, right? Eventually what you do is you sell these off to the tenants. You want them to eventually be tenant-owned homes.
Okay.
So their thought process is there's no value to that because eventually that's all, this extra rent, this extra $600-700 a month, that's going to be gone because the tenant's going to own that. So instead of applying a cap rate, I'm just going to say, 15,000 per unit is what that's worth for me. So I disagree. There's value to that as well. And that's where the example that we have today, that's what we did is we actually applied a value to that.
Okay.
And so this would be the example. There was a Parkton mobile home park. There was 56 pads. 53 of those were park owned. So only 3 of those were owned by the tenant.
Only 3.
Only 3.
Okay.
So the net income, the total net income, this is for the whole thing, not just separating out pad rent, was 285. Okay, so would we just apply a straight cap rate to that, or would we do that blending that I suggested? And that's what we ended up doing.
So you blended it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is me talking here about, I pulled the pad rent out, then we would apply a cap rate to that, and then we added on the value of those homes, but we also beefed it up farther than that because that net income, I think there was a total of $80,000 of that net income. That was the rental portion of that. So I've got $80,000 net income a year coming in on this park. There is a value to that. So what we did is we did 3 things. Here's the pad rent, and here's a value based on the pad rent. Here's how much the park owned homes are worth, right? And we multiplied it out.
Got it.
15,000 or so. And then we stacked that value on top. And we said, look, $85,000 of this whole income is on the delta between those two, the pad rent and the rent you're getting for park owned homes. We said, let's apply a discounted cap rate to that. Let's apply an 11% cap rate to that.
11%?
Yeah. So maybe the whole thing outside of that, maybe the 200,000 of pad rent, maybe we applied like a 7% cap rate to that value. We stacked on top the value of the homes that were owned that they could then sell. And then outside of that, we said, look, there's another $85,000 in net income. That is just this, it's because you own the units right now. We know that's going to go away. Let's discount the value of that and say, 11% cap rate to that. Right. And so then we stack that value on top. So we have all these, now we have 3 portions of that are stacked on top of each other. And that's how we sold it. And we got just under asking price for that. And that's how I would recommend, if you're doing a mobile home park, to market it, is take those 3 pieces, make sure it's clear about what is each of those, and then present that as your marketing piece.
Awesome. Okay. So this is mobile home parks for pads. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to look through this.
Now, what are we looking at here? What is this exactly?
Well, this was what we sold there. I pulled up the brochure, but I think it's a bit too small for people to see.
I'm trying to zoom in.
I'm wondering if I have a.
This is the mobile home park that you so this is the presentation that you've created to sell this mobile home park right here.
and we sold it just under asking price, and I'm trying to see if I've got a clear indication on this one of those three different pieces. I don't know that I do. Yeah, I don't think it's on here. I think I had a separate sheet that we used for that. That's fine. We get some other stuff to talk about.
Now we're getting into commercial, right? Commercial, multifamily.
Let's do more multifamily, less mobile home parks. That's kind of the end of the mobile home park chat.
Now, before you get into that,
hmm?
This is a deal that came across your desk this week, correct?
Yeah, just a couple days ago. A brand new agent is going to be listing this, and so she wanted some input on it. She sent it to me. This is not listed yet. I don't believe. It's a 10 unit and a 12 unit. Her and her husband develop properties, and so I just thought we'd kind of run through the OM and just take a look at it.
Let's take a look
and see what our thoughts are. So this is what she, and this is a brand new agent that put this together.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah. What we got here? We got 10 units, rent per unit about $1,000.
$995. Completed November. Okay, just completed. Well, not too long ago. November 2022.
Yeah, not too long ago. Pretty much brand new.
Okay, there it is. Annual gross rent.
Okay, so here's something to take a look at. So when you're dealing with multifamily, I don't think I can share my screen here, but I've pulled my calculator up. And the net income for multifamily, depending on the age, should be between 32 to 46% of the gross income, the gross scheduled income. Okay. So they're saying here the gross rent is $119,400, and the net income is $89,203. Okay, so brand new building. So this is probably more pro forma if they don't even have a year under their belt. So let's divide 89,203 into the gross income of 119. That leaves us with so 74.7%, so 75%. So what that means is the expenses are roughly 25% of the gross income.
Got you.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what that tells me is a couple things. It tells me it's probably a newer building. It's probably a pro forma rents that they're looking at because it's below that 32% number. Right. So we're at 25% instead of 32%. So we're probably a little ambitious with some of our numbers, but not out of, a reason. It's just something to keep in mind. So if you're looking at multifamily, that's what you want to do is you want to say, hey, my net income, what percent of the gross income is the net?
Gotcha.
And do my expenses fall within 32 to 40, 46% or so? And that can be a great, easy, quick way to see if there's a red flag there.
So let me ask you this question, Dusty. For this type of deal right now, and this is located where exactly? This is Arkansas.
Yeah.
Okay, so this deal, so on average, when you're looking at something like of this magnitude, what cap rate are you normally getting around, or what is like more of the accepted cap rate that people are looking for, like percentage wise? It's like 5% the bare bottom, or you really want to be around the 6-8% range?
Depends on the market, depends on the location. Right now in this market and me and your market, right. I've sold multifamily down in Palm Desert as low as 3% cap rate.
Now that doesn't sound pleasing to me. Like 3%, right? But that's California though, right? So,
yeah.
So in Arkansas, 6% was 6.15 seems decent. I mean, I know we're not seeing it here.
Could be. I would have to do some more research. My thought was I would kind of do this blind with you and just kind of give my live thoughts on things. So 6.15 seems somewhat reasonable, but I don't know the area too well. Okay. So what we would do is we go in and look at comps, look at what's for sale. What has sold recently, similar to this, so new properties is what we would look for. I don't know if there's any garages attached, but it looks like there may be for some of these.
Okay.
But that's what we would do, and then we would compare it to what they're offering. And like I said, with the the expense ratio, looks like they're being a little ambitious with some of their numbers, a little optimistic with their expense numbers. So I want to go in and just ask them where they came up with that and why.
Right.
Show me, which
Right.
it looks like they've done here
Okay.
to some degree, and these are all pro forma, obviously. And I think these are probably too small for people to see. Let me look here.
Yeah, let me check it out. Let me see if I can zoom in.
Vacancy, so they got vacancy at 4%. Fun fact, multifamily. So we didn't talk about this. So multifamily can be rented. Each unit can be rented 12 times a year, right? Right. I can rent it each month. I pay for a month rent, so I can pay 12 times for each unit. Hospitality is different. I can rent each hospitality unit 365 times every year. So I'm going to expect probably a higher vacancy on hospitality, right? That's a lot of ambitious things to look for if I were to go for 4%. But on vacancy for multifamily, 5% is about as full as you usually get. If your vacancy is below 5%, what that usually means is your rents are low or below market. People don't want to move out. They're staying there. So you want to stick closer to 5%. 4% is fine for them. I imagine that market's very high occupancy. But a bank will consider 5% vacancy as full market occupancy for most of the time. That's how they'll underwrite it, is at 5% vacancy.
5%. That's what they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I was just looking at another property, another commercial deal I was telling you about. It was around, they were average around 5% for the bank.
Yep, that's how they'll underwrite every multifamily. Usually, unless the market's significantly different, then they might do closer to 10%. But you'll usually, if you do an under thing like this, you do what they did is 4% or 5% vacancy, depending on the market. Let me see, pet fees, very good.
So we had a comment said is good. I'm assuming that they're speaking about this deal right here. So you said that they seem a little bit optimistic on the numbers.
Well, on the expense numbers, right? Yeah. So you just want to clarify. So they're not without reason, right? At 25%, it's a brand new building. I just want to kind of look a little bit closer at that if I'm going to buy something like this, and just confirm everything is within reason. Because again, if it was built in November of last year, we're several months away from that. You don't get fully occupied right away, right? So they may have just reached full occupancy. So a lot of these numbers are going to be pro forma, right?
Gotcha.
But maintenance. So here's what I would do here. So you got the main ones, right? Timber,
yep.
Taxes, insurance,
management.
I
know utilities. Is it mortgage? No.
Good. TIMMUR, Timber.
Yep.
Taxes,
insurance, management. What's that? The other M. Give
right here. It's on the screen.
Let me see. Hold on. I can't see it. Where is it?
Maintenance.
So
utilities,
tax, insurance, management, maintenance, utilities,
and repairs.
Repairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got most of that here. Maintenance, repairs would probably be looped in with. I think we lost him. So maybe he'll join back in. Repairs would be looped in with the maintenance on here. And what I would do if you're watching this after the fact. Oh, here he's been.
Sorry about that. I got kicked out.
So I was saying they've plugged in all these major items that we were talking about for timber. And so that's where, if you're viewing something like this and they don't have one of those major items, no utilities are in there,
Right.
the taxes aren't included. A lot of times taxes and insurance won't be on a profit and loss when you're doing that. So this is something prepared for us
Okay.
to look at. But when you're getting a profit and loss from a client, a lot of times the taxes and the insurance, or at least one of the insurances, is not included on there. So make sure when you're reviewing these things that you look at timber. Make sure you check all those boxes, because those are major items that could be left off when you're looking at stuff.
Right. And I know we got our guest probably showing up pretty soon here. I think it's 1:32, top of the hour. So so I'm looking at timber. That's gonna be taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, utilities, and repairs.
There it is. Yeah.
Got it down.
Major items.
All right. I got to remember that one. I wrote it down just so I have it for future. But this is a new agent that created this offering.
Brand new agent. The two properties, it's a 10 unit, 12 unit here, and it looks like they got the same thing on this side. And I would do this too. So annual NOI and the gross rents, divide those into each other, see what the expense percentage is, and if that falls within a reasonable range. If not, if it's a bit aggressive or optimistic, I would just have a conversation, say where'd that come from,
Right?
Because these have all been built recently, so that would be something that I would just take a look at. But yeah, I like this. I think they did a pretty good job, especially considering it's a brand new agent.
You know what? And is this agent just strictly commercial, or did they come for the residential side?
No, they've done only residential, and then their family does development, and they develop these multifamily, and they want to jump into commercial, so they found me on the other side and asked to get some help. So I thought I'd take a look, and I think they did a pretty good job.
Wow! So were they one of your at the Straight Talk Academy?
Yeah. Oh, we've got the wrong ticker going on. Yeah, the Straight Talk Academy. There you go. You got it right down there.
Okay.
But that's they can sign up for that if they want to. I think if people want to join us, we can do that ticker right there. People can sign up for a call with us.
So I mean, was this a student of yours that came to your training, learned how to put this offering together? Like, how did they come up with this?
They the person who owns the property helped them with this, but they are a brand new agent. They wanted to get started with it, so I don't know if they found me on YouTube or where, but they called us and they connected with us, and I thought I would take a look at their brochure here, because it's not listed yet, but it will be soon.
Okay, perfect. I mean,
a couple things I would change on it is I would add a little bit more detail on the expenses and the pro forma.
Okay.
I'm sure they have that. And then I would also probably do some demographics too.
Okay. And this segues us into our next conversation. Our guest that is joining us now, Ramon Tukes. I want to introduce him, get him on here, because this gentleman actually invests and wholesales in different states as well than he's based out of. So I want to introduce him, welcome him to the show. He's been in commercial, residential, multifamily for quite a bit of time. Ramon, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you. How y'all doing?
Welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Listen, man, honored, man. I'm sorry about the delay.
No problem, man. You came right in time.
I saw it, man. I got some game. I'm pumped up, man. I got to start putting a little bit more details into my, my analysis, man. I like that.
You like that one? So look, next show we're probably gonna go over how to. Basically, this is a show just talking straight commercial, okay? And the next time I do this, I'm a residential agent. Dusty Bates is my co-host here. He's a commercial agent only. That's all he deals with. So what I want to do is try to do a commercial offering and put one together and have Dusty try to pick it apart on the next show. So that's what we're going to do in the next show. However,
nice.
I wanted to welcome you to the show. Talk to us, man. Tell us who you are. Who is Ramon Tukes? tell us everything about you, man. When did you start? When did you get started in real estate?
Listen, man. First of all, nice to meet you as well, Dusty, man. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Ramon Tooks, and I've been at it now, man. This is going into year 29. I started early in life, but I'm gonna say officially started as a bird dog at the age of 19. And what people are calling wholesaling now is what we were calling bird dogging then. We just didn't have a lot of control. But, at 19, who cares? If I can get $500 here, $1,000 there, it was cool. But, from bird dogging to buying income producing properties, I didn't know a lot about fixing and flipping because that wasn't what we saw. It weren't any shows on 28 years ago.
Right.
So it was looking at landlords being filthy rich. I used to watch, I don't know if y'all are old enough, but I used to watch Different Strokes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, that Gray.
Yeah.
He was a developer and they built, rental properties basically. Right.
Right.
And so everybody that I knew that owned rental properties, I looked at them as wealthy. So that was one thing that I wanted to do. So start buying rental properties early, then got into the fix and flip development world. And so I've always been attracted to multifamily and commercial real estate. So, I've been at it now, man, ups and downs, highs and lows, learn something new every day for the past 29 years. And it has been my main gig that long. So that's a little bit about how I got into it, man. But before then, I was, at an early age, my father owned some real estate. My grandfather was a roofer, so we would be on top of buildings and houses at a very, very, very young age. If you guys are familiar with Atlanta, it is the Westin now, but it was the Peachtree Plaza back when we were kids, which was one of the tallest hotels. And my grandfather was worked with the roofing company. So we would be up there at night, man, and just looking out over the city. And I guess I was wowed by being able to see the lights and buildings at an early age. So it's something that was in me. And when my dad pushed me into going to get my real estate license, it just came natural, man. So I love it. I love the business, man. I love going all over the country. Even when I'm not in the country, I stop and look at real estate and neighborhoods, architecture. It is one of the most powerful things that you could ever put in front of my eyes. So I'm a person that loves it, man, and the good and the bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then hold on 1 second, sorry about that. I'm taking notes, man, because that's good to know. I didn't know that about you. Like I said, Ramon, I actually started following him on Instagram, social media, and that's how I actually started connecting with him a little bit. Ramon, so this is talking commercial. Have you ever dealt with any commercial development? Have you went into commercial development before?
So a lot of what I've done is multifamily redevelopment, some mixed use redevelopment, but nothing full-fledged commercial. Just hasn't been, I don't want to say capacity, but it just hasn't been my fastball. And then a lot of ours have been in-town multifamily. So in-town Atlanta, in-town Cleveland, in-town Detroit, in-town, of course, Montgomery or Birmingham. So, smaller multifamilies. I've done larger multifamilies, but my fastball has been under 50 units. And, when I go to the Midwest, it's, probably under 20 units, but you may buy 15 units that's got 6 storefronts. And so that's where we've been. So as far as like full-fledged new commercial development, no, but redevelopment of multifamily is, I love it. And a lot of people fight against it. But when I say I love it, it's just been, I don't know, man. It's just been something that I've been really good at and been successful at.
Okay.
What would you say, like, so when you're redeveloping something like that, I've dealt with some stuff that's under 50 units that are, they need some work done. What do you look for the value add opportunities within those? What's your favorite to see?
So a lot of times it's, we've bought properties that are totally vacant. And then some that got 1 or 2 units, some that may have 50% occupied. But a lot of times it's just minor upgrades where people are being really cheap. A lot of things are like visual. So I just did a unit and we painted the apartment all white, right? When I was a kid, we used to hate all white walls because you felt poor. You wanted some color on your walls, right? We hated hardwood floors. We felt like, grandmama, you got to get a rug, right? So what we did was we buffed up some floors, we painted the apartment white, and we painted one accent wall iron ore, which is the darkest, one of the darker grays. People are going crazy. And so it was just a visual of, man, they put a lot of money in here, right? So I look at things like, exterior paint, making sure we got new windows. I do like new central heat and air. A lot of places you go, I hate window units. So a lot of places that I've renovated in from like the Midwest, they don't do central air. They don't put in appliances. And that gives us an edge as far as tenants. So just minor things that I consider minor, other people consider major, as far as like paint colors. I'm real big on like door colors. I'm like a pastel door guy, right? So I feel like when people see a red door or some kind of, teal green door, they just be like, wow, this is like welcoming home. And central heat and air and just some decent appliances. It's only so much you can do to these units. It's only so much you can do.
So pastel colors is your choice.
I love pastel doors. We just did a whole set with I guess Tiffany blue doors.
Yeah,
and it just
I actually like that.
It makes people feel like, man, wow, like it's pretty. You know what I mean? And when pretty happens, and it's just paint. It's the same paint if you were gonna paint it black, if you were gonna paint it, brown. I hate browns. Like that's like a pet peeve. I don't want to see another brown.
Man, almost every property I've purchased, they all had tan walls. Everything is tan, brown. I think that's the worst thing. And I always had to paint them white. Yeah. Every last wall white inside.
But you know what you have to think about? 15 years ago, and I forgot the color at Sherwin-Williams, but it was the tan that we all were putting in our houses. It was tan. So gray is it now. Gray and white is it, right? Yep. So you go with the times, but just updating, man, with paint. It costs, on an average 700 to 1,000 square foot apartment, it may cost you $700 to paint it, right? It's maybe $1,000 to paint it. Why not just paint it, man? Because it'll make tenants want to stay.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love white now because white is so cheap. You can get white from everywhere.
100%. I mean, and basically that's kind of like the question to ask you on this is, how do you ensure like your projects are successful? How are you going in with the mind state of people want white walls, people want grays, people want white cabinets? Like what's your strategy on that?
As far as being successful, man, we always buy right, and not every project goes as planned. I got some that have been delayed, and I tell people the good and the bad. We normally buy them so good up front, it's really hard not to be successful, whether we resell it, whether we fix it. But I look at rents. I don't always go to the top of the market in rents so that we retain more people. I love Section 8 veterans, any kind of government housing programs. I love those type, rentals. And if their limit is $1,200, I'm probably going to ask $1,050. Because what I do know is most people that go to the top, they don't think about utilities. They don't think about other things that those, tenants have to pay. So I'm always a little bit lower than like the top of the market so I can retain. So that's one thing that helps us. We attract a lot of tenants. They love our look. And as far as repairs, we just repeat the same repairs over and over. Like once I get going, you can drop me off in the middle of anywhere. And if it's got multifamily, I can build a team in 30 to 60 days, and we're going to repeat that process over and over again. So it's my affinity to the business, one, and then being able to talk to folks and, and understand what costs are and, kind of, not beat folks up, but not let them beat us up. Like you can't double charge me for a roof, right? And I always tell people, listen, if you're going to charge an exorbitant amount for my roof, I'm going to bring my crews in from Atlanta.
Got it.
I've had to do it several times. Even if I got to fly them in or rent them a van and drive them in, I don't care how large the roof is. I know what they can do, and we got to put them up. So because I know cost as well, you're not able to overcharge me, and that keeps our budgets normally in line. It keeps people in line, and then the rest of it's easy. Like normally, it's only cosmetics, y'all. When you think about multifamily, it's normally paint, flooring, maybe cabinets. That's it.
Got it. And then we got a question from our live feed. So what about student rentals?
So I haven't done any. I have a partner that builds student rentals near. He's done them mostly by like HBCUs,
Okay.
but he does a really good job. But his return, it's more of a generational return for him. His return is really low. And it's really low because he understands that it's normally between a 5 and 6 cap. It's going to take him basically 20 years to get his money back. You know what I mean? If he doesn't refinance, if he doesn't do anything, just straight, I'm getting my money back. So I don't like that model, but it's not something I would run. If something came on the market and it was a deal, I'm always looking for a discount. So if it came on the market and there's a discount, then maybe we'll look at it. But the management of student rentals is a little bit different than what I like. I like the money to drop into our accounts between the 1st and the 5th, and we keep going. Maybe we don't make as much every month, but it's also less of a management headache.
It seems like students, what I've always heard, like they tear it up. Tear those units up. It's a lot more maintenance costs to those.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes where what you'll do is you'll do like per room rentals, and there's more income per unit, but like the amount of turnover is crazy. I mean, there's pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess for that.
Yeah, y'all remember we were kids one time, so
Right.
Right. When I'll say this, when between 20 years old and 25, I owned a bunch of rooming houses, and same concept. And I'll tell y'all the good and the bad. At one point, I was getting $7,500 to $10,000 a week. Just every Friday night, to Saturday morning. Good thing, a kid, you 19, 20, 21, you're collecting $7,000. You got to think, man, I'm the man. Like I'm talking about, 20 years ago, right?
Right.
The bad part about that is every Friday night, Saturday morning, I would have to fight. And like literally, we got to fight. And somebody's going to make you kick the door in and drag them out for $70, right?
Wow.
One time we kicked the door in and there was needles on the floor. Because, you got to still think, rooming houses is a lot of rougher areas back then anyway.
Kind of explain that to our audience, because they may not know what that is exactly. Is it kind of like the Airbnb back in the day?
So it's not Airbnb. It's boarding houses, rooming houses where you're paying weekly for a room inside of something where it may be a 5-bedroom house that we've chopped up and made it, 7 bedrooms where the living room became a bedroom and everything but the kitchen and your room, right? They're sharing everything. And so it's a weekly rental that you're paying. A lot of it, was not, the quality of our work wasn't that great, but it was a cash cow. When I say cash cow, think about this. We were buying houses for 45, 50 grand, putting, 5 to 8 rooms in them, getting $75 to $100 a week. The return was it was worth fighting for until you understood that there's a better way for sanity. My last time when I started reselling to get into the entertainment industry, but I kicked in the door and there was some needles on the floor. And I kept thinking, what if, they would have stuck me with the needle. I was like, it's time to sell. And I was still, 20, I think it was 2000. So I was 24, 25. Mm-hmm. Just that battle, man. And so I go back to loving traditional rentals. You can keep the Airbnbs. I know a lot of people make a lot of money off of them. I want my money to come between the 1st, and my rents are due on the 1st, late after 5 p.m. on the 3rd. Right. And I want my late fees. And anything after that, I don't go 1st and 5th. I go 1st and 3rd, and I can live my life. I'm in this business for the quality of life. I'm not going to say I'm going to make more money than Lawrence or Dusty. I don't care about who's making money. I want to have the best quality of life as possible. And I've learned that over the years. It's not something that I started out saying I wanted the most money when I was a kid. I want the best. I want to be able to go anywhere. And on the 4th, I can look up and say, man, all of our bills are paid. All the taxes are paid. All the employees are paid. We got some extra money. I can go hang out with Lawrence over in California somewhere for 2 days and just, eat good, or me and Dusty, I don't know where you are, but we can mastermind, go for walks together. Like the quality of life, the freedom that income brings. I don't want to pick up the phone on the 14th and somebody say we got to move somebody in, or the box is not working. I don't want to deal with that anymore. So I'm probably I'm a little more old school than folks. But I love my model.
Excellent. Well, you'll go all over the country. You said Cleveland, Atlanta. It doesn't matter where. What kind of return are you kind of targeting for most of your projects? It sounds like they're mostly short term.
So I'm based in Atlanta, born and raised in Atlanta. So Southeast has always, when I say Southeast, so really Georgia and Alabama. Haven't done a lot in Florida in my entire career. And then Midwest is like second home for me. Detroit, Cleveland, sometimes Milwaukee. We've done some stuff in Milwaukee, but definitely those places. 10%. You know, if it's in a 10% return every year. If you're in a rough neighborhood, we call it rough, 12. I don't like under 10%. I don't care where we are.
Doesn't matter. Well, you definitely won't like California investing.
I won't like California. I'm starting not to like Atlanta. I mean, just again, the only reason you invest in those places is because the values increase so fast.
The equity,
the equity increases. I just had a meeting with my students this morning, and I told them, I said, listen, you either invest for equity or you invest for cash flow.
Yep.
If you're going to take your cash flow, I'm taking you to the Midwest or Southeast. If you want equity, I'm going to take you to Atlanta, Houston, New York, California, you know what I mean? Because they're not going anywhere. With the properties that we buy in, the Midwest, a lot of times they don't have any equity. We're in them at 90 cents on the dollar, which drives me crazy, but the return is amazing, y'all. And it's, we're in some duplexes for $100,000 and we're getting $1,500 a month. That's fully renovated. I can't get that anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I've got a investor who sold all this stuff out here, and he's in Cleveland exclusively. He's got a team out there, and he's just killing it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place, man. I'll be there in 2 weeks. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. I was born in Michigan and grew up in not in Cleveland, on the outskirts of Cleveland, right there. But I always looked at Michigan and Cleveland at the property tax, and I always look at that, and that kind of eats away at everything. You mentioned Atlanta. You mentioned Montgomery, Alabama. I know because I have some family members that's investing with you on a commercial deal out there.
Yes.
How are those areas opposed to the Detroits and the Clevelands as far as the property taxes? Is it mainly Section 8 you're going for out there? Like, tell me more about that.
So in Atlanta, I like market rent, but I love y'all will hear me. I love anything with housing authority attached to it, right? During COVID, we had no problems. Zero. Where people wasn't paying rent, it was dropping into the accounts.
Right.
So I'm that person. But as far as comparing property taxes, Alabama has some cheap taxes.
Right.
Detroit, for whatever reason, their taxes are a little bit higher than we would want, but Cleveland is not. Cleveland is the only problem I have with Cleveland is it gets too cold. That's it.
Do you have problems there where it gets really cold and really hot and it just really wears and tears at the building?
No, because here's the thing. That it's cold from October to March. The challenge is, we buy a lot of properties that need renovation. That means we're not able to do anything on the exteriors for basically 5 months. And it holds, I don't want to say hold them up, but it holds the exterior from looking good. So as much as we can do in the warm months, we'll do it. But again, it doesn't make a difference because, I put in central heat and air. So we preserve a lot of our properties. We paint them, or you'll see a lot of people doing vinyl siding. I don't like vinyl. I don't like vinyl. I love wood and I love brick. So it's all preference, though. You know what I mean? So Cleveland is, and I'll say this, it's a gold mine, y'all. Cleveland, Detroit. A lot of people run from Milwaukee, but Milwaukee is a really good place. You just got to have the right teams in place.
I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about Milwaukee lately.
Good place. They used to have the 5 for 25, 5 properties for 25,000.
That was Detroit too at one point.
Yeah, Detroit was 5 for $5, but we'll leave that alone. I mean, I invest in Detroit. You know what I mean? I mean, I literally bought a commercial, and this is, I don't know if you've seen that video, but I bought a commercial parking lot for $800.
I seen that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you sold that one, right? That commercial.
Huh?
That commercial. Did you sell that one?
No.
You're not selling it?
I will. Everything's for sale. My house that I'm
Right.
living in. If you come to the front door with the right amount of money,
Here
kids,
too.
we keep bags in the closets just in case.
That's right. So let me ask you this question: when you're dealing with more than 4 units, are you doing a property condition assessment? Are you looking at like I know that's equivalent to a home inspection on residential, but are you doing that on the commercial side?
Yes.
Okay. Are you hiring someone to do that, or are you doing it yourself?
So I do it, but I hire someone as well. 2 reasons why. I'm great at what I do, but I don't see foundational issues if they're not obvious. I don't see roofing structure issues because I don't go in attics and I don't really go in crawl spaces. You know what I mean? Not that I'm scary, but I live in the South. It's normally 150 degrees in the attics, and it's normally disgusting in the crawl spaces. So you hire somebody. Now, I can look at electrical, I can look at plumbing, I can look at HVACs. Normally, I'm going to say I'm replacing HVAC. I can look at electrical. If the power hasn't been on, it's going to be for 6 months. Most places, it has to be inspected anyway. So, if the power's not on, the traditional inspector is not able to inspect behind the walls. So it's certain things that we do, but I normally hire inspectors for structural issues and basically structure, roof and foundation. Everything else I can see. Yeah. And because I raise capital, bring in partners, I like to have proof of what we're working on. So we can basically, you can give me a property anywhere. I can hire an inspector. I can estimate repairs. My team can estimate repairs virtually so that when we go into something, we know what we have based upon a professional saying this is what it is.
Right. Yeah, that was the question. The next question was basically any stakeholders how are you managing those stakeholders' expectations for funding on these commercial deals?
So I do a lot myself. I just started doing the partnering a few years ago. Crowdfunding became popular, joint ventures for, especially in our community. Yeah. I started to watch folks. And then, so I did a couple of deals that we bought, smaller deals. And then we have the Rosa, which, you brought light to, right? We just, monthly meetings. We're very, very transparent. So you can see whatever you want to see, the income, expenses. You're always welcome to go on site. Like, it's not, even though, you are silent partners or investors, I want you to learn the business so you're comfortable with it, so you can go out and duplicate this process. Because I want more and more people to do, I'm somebody that lights up about this business, right? Yeah. And I want more and more people to get involved in it. And I mean, at a young age, I want kids, to be involved. I don't care if you're 80 and you haven't bought a house. I want you involved in this business. So I just want more people to get involved. So I just share everything. I share the good and the bad. When we talk about bad, we have a 16-unit building that we bought 2 years ago, downtown Birmingham, Alabama. Okay. And I won't call it all the way bad because we're not going to lose money, but we didn't get a chance to get to it. We didn't get a chance to raise the capital for it. And then there was a lot of city money. So some of us wanted to go after the city money because it was free. And time just went by really fast. Y'all know from 2020 to today, it's like it's been 1 year.
Like that.
It's really like it's been 1 year.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, if it was 8 of us, 9 of us, half of them wanted to sell, half didn't. So I as person 9, as the leader, I decided to sell. We put it on the Craigslist auction. I don't know if y'all have dealt with Craigslist auction. They do auction, right? And it was great yesterday. We got our number that we wanted. And so everybody's going to be made whole. And it was an experience. And the experience was, don't raise, make sure you got all the capital going into those smaller projects instead of doing it after you get into them. And so some of the things that I've learned is, because I'm a person that I make a decision and I go, right? And I've been very successful at that. But when you got other people involved, you got to say, okay, y'all, listen, we're not buying this until we get, $1 million. And then once we got $1 million, this opportunity may not be there. That's the challenge. So now we got $1 million in the city. Now nobody's making money on $1 million. So it's like, it's a catch-22 to raising capital and finding these projects. But again, we have the ability to be able to buy. So sometimes we buy and it sits. We got property sitting, but we'll get to them. And we buy right. That's the key. You got to buy right and have the right teams to renovate.
Do you have like a mailing list that people can get on? That
Yeah, I do. Now, I'll say this though. Here's the thing about the mailing list. They wait on me to tell them if it's nothing new on there, they don't send it out every week. But we have a lot of off-market things. We do. We just had it today, Lawrence. I don't know if you know, but we do a meeting, and we've been doing it for about 6 years called Deal Makers. We just get on and analyze deals, man. People bring deals from all over the country. It's virtual 3 weeks, 1 week in person in Atlanta, and from single family flips to land development to self-storage, people they bring it to us. We you know what I do when I get mobile home parks? I send them, and I don't know if you know Byron Sellers up in Chicago. I just send everything to him. And I call him the mobile home king. When somebody sends
it, Dusty right here.
Send it to Dusty. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send it. Y'all. I mean, again, what I've learned is I don't do everything, but I do everything, right? And because we're a center and we got students, people bring us stuff. This weekend, 2 weekends ago, we did a tour of the Montgomery of Alabama. So we looked at about 7 sites on a Saturday. We left Atlanta. We went to Birmingham. We looked at a 34 unit. We looked at our 16 unit because we was having an open house for the auction. Then we went over to Montgomery and looked at a 4 unit. We walked the 22 units, the Rosa site, and we looked at a duplex. This weekend, I'm flying into Jackson, Mississippi, looking at a 294 unit self-storage facility that's operating that we're basically getting at, I guess, like $1,200 a door.
So it's 290?
294 units. Yep.
294 units. Wow.
Yep. So, and I don't, I know that it needs repairs. Again, I'm going in, we don't have any baseball games this weekend with the kids. So I'm going in and I'm flying in. I'm leaving Atlanta at 8. I get there at 8:50 their time. I'll be back in Atlanta by 7:30 p.m. Right. We're going to walk the site, take the pictures, get the videos. I can, hopefully get to meet some contractors there, but they need painting, doors, roof. It's simple. That's it. So you got to think, if we're in them at $2,000 a door, over time, we got to steal that $1,200 a door. Like, I know we got to steal. And there's some people in between that brought us the deal. I don't care. And so I don't know if we're going to, because I'm not a self-storage person. I did reach out to a couple of people that I know have self-storage phones that operate self-storage to either be our partner or I'm going to sell it to them. And again, they'll know what I'm making, but we'll put those deals together. And that's something that came across my plate, and those things come across our plate. It's an asset that and a class that, I haven't owned self-storage. I haven't even thought about it really. Right. But I know I'm a numbers person. So $1,200 a door. When I call my buddies that do it, they was like, go ahead, put it on the contract.
Pull the trigger.
We'll send you the earnings money if you want it. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to go see it, walk it. It's apparently close to downtown, apparently close to Jackson State, which is on fire right now. The world is looking at Jackson State. So I don't know, do we get it, paint it, take it, put it on Craigslist auction and make a couple $100,000? It's so many options with it being such a good price.
What I've seen with self-storage, and I've got someone who does this with motels as well, little mom and pop motels, they'll automate it. So they'll do a lot of automation with it. So like it's a lot of the expenses with self-storage can be, the staffing. You got to have someone there to let people in and stuff. And so what he does is he automates it to the point where a lot of those expenses just disappear, and it makes it a lot easier. And he started doing this during COVID. So that could be a good way to change things up a little bit. Because I noticed back east, especially, they don't have a lot of that.
Right.
Automation. Yeah, I mean, and Ramon, Dusty's the one that's been telling me about the the storage units, man. He's been getting in my ear about that, and I kind of like that. I like that.
Yeah, and apparently this one has some land, and again, I watch and I learn where you can do RV and truck parking.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact acreage that it has, but they're saying that there's a portion where either you can build 2 more buildings, or you can do truck parking. I guess people have issues finding places to park their trucks or RVs, so it's just more income that's not already there. So I'm going in. We're gonna spend about 4 hours on the site, and then I'm coming back home with with all the information and ready to pull the trigger on it.
Right on. Right.
And I think we had so basically. Let me ask you this question: when you're looking at each unit, like on a commercial property, how are you doing? How are you determining value of each unit? How do you keep up with rents and all that stuff when if someone moves out and then new person moves in? Uh-oh, did we lose him?
Well, it looks like we lost him.
Uh-oh. Well, I mean, because he was telling about that self-storage.
Mm-hmm.
Self-storage, I think, is something that people, obviously people just keeping stuff that they really don't need. They probably will never touch. But if you can automate that thing, the only thing I think you'll be worried about is the security side of it, right? Make sure that.
Here he is. The security side, but also when someone sells one of those, they don't go on market. They rarely go on market. Self-storage, just go to just trade them. Because there's a really good return there.
Right.
Yeah, Lawrence, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened, but you were asking me about valuations.
Yeah, no, I was asking how do you include how do you add determine the value of each unit when you're basically when you're looking at a property? How do you determine the value of each unit, and how once you acquire the property, how do you keep up with the rents?
So we do have in-house management.
Yeah.
But in different cities, we hire property managers. You know what I mean? Depends on what city we're in, how many units we have. And initially, though, if I'm doing a full rehab, if you notice, like with the roles, I'm hands-on because I build relationships with cities. We're going to do it in-house. And if I'm 90% housing authority tenants, I don't really need a property manager. We have a 1-800 number that we use. They can call in, report their repairs. They can go online and request their repairs. The money drops into our account, and any office that we have in a city, they drop that there because we have offices in most cities if there's not a property manager. So in Cleveland, we have property managers because it's so neighborhood specific. Some managers won't manage the west side, some won't manage the east side. I don't always have time to be there. Right. But in Atlanta, all of it's in-house. Everything is in-house. In Montgomery, everything is in-house. And in Birmingham, everything is in-house.
Okay. Property manager. That's the key.
It is. But see, here's the thing. What we talk about property managers being the key, but we don't talk. Most people don't know how to interview a property manager. They don't know how to get the right property manager because having a bad property manager is worse than managing it yourself.
Right. Yeah. And that's another question is what do you look for in a property manager? Because I know I have property managers in the past, and there's no 100% great property manager. There's always something that they lack, right? So what do you look for in a property manager?
I look at what they're managing
right
currently. Like I ask questions. Like I want to see your portfolio. I want to give me some addresses. I want to drive by them and see the condition of them because I know that our properties are going to remain in good condition because I take pride in yards. I take pride in colors. Like they laugh. They're like, we know that's y'all property. The past 3 years we've been doing wood posts, wood shutters. Just the really cute stuff, right? Mm-hmm. If you go to some of our properties, you're gonna see I put flowers everywhere, or it's Easter time, so we had bunnies up at some properties. Just you can tell. I want people to feel like we care, especially because we have smaller units. If it was 1,000 units, it's hard to do that, right? But we got smaller units. So with property managers, I want to see what you're doing. I want to see your contractors list, and I may even ask to speak with some of your other clients. your other landlords.
Yeah, makes
If you
sense.
don't, I've been told, no, you can't talk to my landlords. Okay, well, you can't manage my properties.
Yeah,
It's simple. I mean, just as much you're gonna do for me, I'm doing for you. I'm
right,
interviewing you. You're not interviewing me. Right? That's the
correct.
way I look at it. And so I am bringing you something. I'm gonna bring you more clients if you do a good job. I want to hear how you keep your financials. Because here's one thing that when we get ready to go refinance or purchase, they ask questions
All the,
about the property manager. They
yep,
don't. They ask more questions about the property manager than us. If you go to Lima One right now, Lima One is going to say, I want the property manager to fill out this form.
right.
If they're not willing to fill it out, you're not my property manager, because I know my financing is critical to me being successful.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, for me, just my biggest mistake in the past was not interviewing the property manager properly. And the main thing I want to make sure in my property manager that they own property and having those property managed. Because if they own property and having those property managed, they know what I'm looking for as their client, right? They know what hurts me, what's a downfall when people not paying rent, how do you go after them. That's what I want to make sure we have in a property management. And I want to be respectful of your time too, man.
Oh no, you're good, man. I'm good.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I got one more question for you. I know Dusty, I think he has a little problem with his mic, but how are you forcing value into each door when someone vacates a unit? How are you creating value into that door?
Again, man, it starts from the beginning, because we always, man, always. I don't care if we're in a $500 a month neighborhood or not. We're going to have quality repairs. You can tell what we do, and it's simple because it's paint colors. I like new windows. You know what I mean? And some of these are my quirks. I like central heat and air. It's really hard to get me to put window units in something, man. It's real, and whatever that is, maybe because we used to sit in front of fans as kids and turn it to go one way, in the summer, and one way to go in at night. But it's only so much we can do to these properties, right?
Right.
So I do my best to do really good renovations from the start, and we turn them with the same quality renovations. I make sure you have I buy new appliances. You'll see me post, a question I've had is, do you buy new or used appliances, right? I do my best to buy new appliances. And the past 2 years, used appliances have almost been the same cost as new appliances. So unless I'm in a hurry, I'm going to buy new appliances for, our units as we turn them.
So you buying new appliances as you turn them?
Not every turn, but your appliances are not going to be more than 2 years old.
Okay. But see, for me, I always go back and forth if I should include the appliances or not include them, because you're going to get those calls. Well, not me, but the property manager is going to get those calls when those appliances break down, right? If they overload them, it's like the washer and dryer, dishwasher, you're going to get those calls from the property manager. So I
don't do washer and dryers.
Okay.
A lot of times, if it's 1 meter on the complex, I don't even do the connections. You got to go to the laundromat. But if it's multiple meters, then we'll put the connections in there. I do my best not to do dishwashers. I do, and I know, here's the thing, that's even on some of our higher end stuff. People understand it. And as you start to get higher up, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, then of course they want everything. But if I got 1 meter on the property and no place to put a laundry facility, you got to go to the laundromat. I'm not going to allow you to overflow. I'm not going to allow you to run the water bill up. Everybody and their cousin is not coming over to wash clothes for free. Not on our dime, because water bills are the highest bills that most of us have as landlords, and taxes. But water bills kill a lot of us, and people forget that could make or break our bottom line. We don't make a lot per door. What did I get in trouble for the other day? I said most landlords, no matter what they say, net between $300 to $500. If you net $500 per door, net, you're doing really good. But $300 is that number across the board. And when you sit down and do your numbers, it comes out to that. Whether you got a mortgage, you got taxes, you got insurance, you got reserves. Some people said 10% for reserves is too high. I do 10% reserves, 10% property management. I still got my taxes. I still, it's certain things that I do. So I net somewhere around $300 a door, and it's okay. I'm okay with that.
Do you ever? So you say some of them have like one, electrically box there.
Yes.
Are they ever like sharing a water heater or anything like that?
I haven't done any that share water meters or water heaters. So the answer is no, but just, on some of them, when you have that one water meter outside, the main water meter, what we've done on some when we could afford it is we put the individual meter readers on the water tanks so you can kind of charge them. But that's hard when you're talking about low end rents under $1,000.
Right.
You just don't have it, man. You're either gonna get it in rent or you're gonna get it in something else. It's the same thing. A battle that I'm having right now is we're not able to force them to have renters insurance. But what I'm doing is now we're going back to say, I want you to sign a waiver saying that you decline renters insurance, because if something happens, I'm not paying for you to stay in the hotel. You can call me mean landlord. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but you have an option of paying $20 a month, $20 to $25 a month, and protecting your property. My property is protected. I have insurance. So it's certain things that you do, but you understand where they are. Like some people can't afford another $20 a month. They just don't have it.
Yeah. So it sounds like, so even though there's shared electrical meters too, sometimes like you're not trying to do reimbursements for the most part. Like you just, with those levels. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
So let me ask you this. Mo, I appreciate all this knowledge, man. Thank you for coming on this show.
I appreciate y'all for having me, man.
Let me ask you this. Where can people find you at? Where are you located at on social media? Where can I find you? I know where you're at, but where can people find you?
I'm Ramon Tooks on all social medias.
Ramon Tooks on all social medias.
Yeah, all social medias. Yep.
My man, I appreciate this knowledge, man, this information, this time today. Thank you so much for joining the show, as always. And I'm going to be in touch, man. I'm going to talk to you about some other things, but thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank y'all for having me. Nice to meet you, Dustin. I look forward to meeting you in person one day. Both of y'all. We got to go to a ball game.
Yeah. Thank you, Ramon. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one.
All right, you too, man. Talk soon.
All right.
Awesome. So, Dusty,